Hi everyone, Sharifa from SC Law Office here. I am on to talk to you about a particular topic today, and that is about the process, the renewing. So, renewing the 2 year green card, that means also removing the conditions, the temporary conditions on the green card, and changing it to a 10 year green card, and what that all entails. So I'm going to talk about that, but this is about you as well. I want you to ask your immigration questions. I will be keeping tabs on the comments as your questions come in, I will go ahead and answer your questions. I will prioritize your questions. And this could be any question you want to ask that's related to immigration. It does not have to be related to the topic that I'm talking about. So let's get started. Conditional residence. So I'm going to be talking about the marriage-based conditional residence. And basically, what that's about is if you were married to a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident for 2 years, less than 2 years, at the time that you received your permanent residence approval, then you will get the 2 year green card. And that's because they want to still keep tabs on your relationship to make sure that it is valid, that it's real, it's a bona fide marriage. And so they want you to come back so they can reevaluate everything and determine whether you continue to have a bona fide marriage. So you 2 years after you receive permanent residence, you will need to renew it, and you have basically the application process will open up for you 90 days before the expiration of your 2 year green card. And it is so important that you submit the application uh, on time, because it can complicate your case and maybe even lead to a denial if you submit it late. Now, what are the requirements of the conditional, removing the conditions? That means renewing the 2 year green card and changing it into a 10 year. So generally, you must apply with your spouse. And that's because the whole point of it is to make sure you're still married, everything is still great, and it wasn't a fake marriage to begin with, right? So you and your spouse are going to go ahead and submit that information. Then you're going to go through, you will get an extension. So you'll get an extension on your permanent residence pending. So while the application is pending, you still have more time as a legal resident. Then what will happen is you'll do your fingerprinting appointment. Then after that, you will get your spouse. So your spouse will, you and your spouse will need to wait for that final interview, right? So the final at the final interview, it's going to be similar to the original one. They're going to ask questions. They're going to look at the evidence that you submitted, because when you submit that first application, you want to make sure that you submit evidence that it is a real marriage. So they're going to evaluate the evidence that you've provided, ask you questions at the interview, and determine whether they're convinced, they are still convinced that this is a real marriage. So, what if you can't file with your spouse, your US citizen or legal permanent resident spouse? Things happen and marriages sometimes don't work out. Sometimes it's inconvenient. It doesn't work. Your marriage doesn't last as long as even 2 years. What do you do then? There are ways to apply for it by yourself. And the way that you do that is um, by so you can qualify in 3 ways: through divorce. So if you've divorced your spouse, you would apply and submit that divorce decree. You and In all of them, you have to state that you're applying for a waiver instead of jointly filing with your spouse. The second is based on extreme cruelty against you by your U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse. And then the third is you have to show that you'll experience extreme hardship if you don't if you have to go to your home country. So, you could file for an exception to the joint filing based on those three. And you should do that. When you submit the application, you must submit that waiver, or it's going to be denied for failure to show a bona fide marriage. So you have to put in the application that you're filing for a waiver. Now, what if your application was denied? What happens then? So if it is denied, I like to talk about two approaches. So if it's denied and there's some misunderstanding for the denial, and you did not get a notice to appear in immigration court, I would quickly resubmit and rectify whatever caused the denial in the first place. And if that cannot be the case, then the next thing would be to go before an immigration judge. And it depends on why you were denied, but the judge is going to basically review your entire case and make a decision. And then now is the in immigration court, it would be like an appeal. It would be like a way to get a second chance to get an approval on that green card application. So what you do is you have to make that case. So if you forgot to do a waiver, then you could present that waiver to the immigration judge at the during the proceedings. While nobody wants to go to immigration court, it is there's no appeal process usually. So if your green card, 2-year green card is denied, then it will continue to be it will there's no appeal. The appeal is basically to go to the immigration court. So while nobody wants to go to immigration court, it is basically your last chance to show that you can stay here and get the conditions removed, and get the 10-year green card, because the immigration judge can, if convinced that you do meet any kind of requirements, then you can have a shot at getting that 10-year green card in before an immigration judge. Now, I just want to mention that I'm talking about the conditional green card and that process. But if you have an immigration question, it doesn't have to be related to the topic I'm talking about today. Please, by all means, go ahead and ask your questions, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to prioritize you and your questions, any question that is related to immigration. So, back to what happens if it's denied. You go to immigration court. So it's very important to avoid jumping through hoops and getting to immigration court and going through removal proceedings. Very important to file on time. Now, if you were divorced, or if your spouse is just not gonna jointly file with you because for any reason, then you can go ahead and submit the renewal at any time. You don't have to wait for the 90 days before it expires to apply for the renewal. And this is great because, one, it gives you more time to prepare for the to submit the waiver, to prepare the waiver, submit the waiver. And in addition to that, it takes away some the anxiety from waiting for 1 year and 9 months. You can, if you got divorced from your spouse at 1 year, if you got separated from them at 1 year, then you can go ahead and apply based on one of those three waivers that allows you to qualify to file for the green card on your own. Now, as usual, get legal advice to move forward with this process, because it does take some legal strategy, and it's not just filling in the boxes. It takes legal strategy and preparation. So make sure that you get legal advice before submitting any kind of application, always. Now, another perk is that if you are jointly filing with your spouse, and you've been married, you will be married for 3 years. your conditional permanent residence is pending, you can actually go ahead and file for US citizenship at 2 years and 9 months. So, say you submit the renewal at 1 year and 9 months, and then it's been pending for a year, you can go ahead and submit your citizenship application at the same time. And what can happen is that they get processed at the same time. So if you end up going to your citizenship, your conditional residence interview, you can end up walking out a U.S. citizen, because they can go ahead and process you to remove the conditions on your green card, and then also you can attend the citizenship interview at the same time. So that is a possibility that you can think about if you don't want to wait for to finish the conditional residence process and you want to jump straight into U.S. citizenship. You can do that. So that is all I have for you today. I don't see any questions, but I will be back. I'm on here usually every Friday. Today was different. It's Christmas, so Merry Christmas. I hope you all are enjoying your time with family. Even though it's been a tough year, I really hope you've had the time to stop and enjoy the family members that you're able to be with today. And I will see you. I am going to be coming on the 31st of December. So I'm going to be doing a pre-New Year's Ask an Immigration Attorney live show. So I'll see you on Thursday at 6 o'clock instead of Friday. But usually I'm on here every Friday at 6:30. Today's different because it's Christmas, and next Friday will be different because it's New Year's Day. I try to stop in sometimes on the lives, and so that's also a chance. What I suggest you do is follow me, and as soon as you get notice that I'm live, you can hop on and ask any immigration question you would like to ask. All right. So have a great Christmas, happy holidays, and I'm wishing you the best going forward. Have a good one, guys.